Thanks for jumping on today to our video. We have a very special guest today, Keena Pettijohn, all the way from Florida. Now she runs Lifelogixs, and she's going to explain a lot better than I will exactly what they focus on. But officially, they're a strategic consultancy group. She's also been involved in the VISA, which I know she can again explain a little bit better than I can. And we're going to talk a little bit today about the future of tech for financial advisors. And Keena has been in the industry for more than 30 years, so she's got a really great experience and really great understanding of what's happening in the industry, not just in the US, but globally as well. So we're looking to get some ideas off her. Keena, thanks very much for joining us here today.
Thank you. This is exciting.
Yeah, all the way from Dublin. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about just yourself, your background, and just what Lifelogixs sort of focuses on, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you for taking the time with me. About 3 decades ago, I was very intrigued with the financial services business. So my first opportunity was with a firm that no longer exists in a building that no longer exists, which is the World Trade, and that firm was Shearson Lehman American Express. But very early on in my career, I was very process driven. Whether it was introducing processes for domestic and international licensed bankers, whether it was processes for onboarding a new technology and the dashboards and the flowing of data. And it was also, it was looked at always as processes from front, middle, and back office. So for the 3 decades, I had the pleasure of working with the portfolio managers, the private bankers, the registered reps, licensed bankers, and the like, as wealth management insurance was done virtually, remotely, and also face-to-face in the branches. So that's 30 years through many acquisitions, conversions, and obviously in the last 8 years, I have focused on the technology that supports financial services.
And in Lifelogixs, just to explain, I know you described yourself as a strategic consultancy group. What does that mean, or what do you focus on mostly within that business?
So we take a very agnostic view. So when we're looking at a firm or an individual practice, we're looking at ways to grow that business. And we would perform a gap analysis. We would have competitive intelligence. We would be looking at fee schedules, business modeling practices, their strategy for communication, which does include marketing. But most importantly, what they're doing to grow their business, not only in a face-to-face bricks and mortar capacity, but also in a virtual capacity.
Okay.
And Lifelogixs was, and I'll just share with you, because it's agnostic, it's holistic. And in this business, we obviously understand what wealth is all about. We know where the dollars are. But I took a perspective that happiness, health and wealth is another metric that we should be looking at when we're evaluating a well-rounded business. So therefore, Lifelogixs.
Okay, and I get that. I know I've heard and seen you talk a little bit about how advisors can be more of a life coach, which I thought was quite an interesting angle and an interesting approach. Can you just sort of explain that for me? Because we deal with a lot of advisors and planners, and I think 90% plus of them would not describe themselves as life coaches, you know, although they kind of maybe do overlap with that. They probably wouldn't describe themselves as a life coach. So can you explain just your thinking on that for me?
Sure. Obviously, we've seen a seismic shift in the business, obviously accelerated in 2020. But most importantly, because we're working in a very commoditized industry, we need to humanize our value proposition. So what I mean by that, and a holistic understanding, is I believe that advice providers and planners will be shedding their role as simply money managers and become much more integrated as life wealth coaches who advise clients on investments, of course, on banking, on healthcare, protecting their estates, taxes, and financial wellness. So when I talk about a life coach, I'm talking about morphing into their role from above and beyond just a money manager, where they're taking in all aspects of the life events of their clients.
Okay. And would you literally be putting the word life coach over the door, or is that just a way of understanding it?
It would be a very important value and virtual persona that I would add to the practice. Very important, because right now, with humanizing many advisors' presence online, you're being relevant and timely, not just when the money changes and there's movement in the market, but when their life events change. So I believe monitoring all of their life events, whether it's retirement, death, divorce, puts them in a position of not only watching their dollars, but also watching their lives and staying connected and empathetic during those events.
So you're almost reframing the way an advisor actually presents themselves to a client. Yeah, and the advisors repositioning themselves to be able to add value, not just on the financial side, but in the other more holistic areas of the client's life. Is that what you mean by it?
Absolutely. So, when you're talking to a client, obviously you're going to be looking at the dollars. You're going to be doing financial planning, and many of the advisors choose their software that they're most comfortable with. But and the regulated aspects of what they have to disclose during the financial planning. But life changes. Right now, with morbidity due to COVID-19, there's an emphasis on health care. There's an emphasis for planning for contingencies, in addition to the portfolio management. So a life coach is connecting on a automated basis more frequently than the required annual reviews, because they're monitoring whether it's the estate may change hands, there may be a divorce, there may be death, and also concerns about health and the propensity for those life events to happen, which have to be financially funded as well.
Excellent. I really like the way you're thinking about this. And, so we talked to a lot of advisors. I don't see a lot of people approaching it in the way that you're doing that. So let me challenge you a little bit. Okay. You've got lots of experience in the industry, been doing it for 30 years. You've seen, everything, in the wealth management and financial planning and financial advice industry. So if tomorrow, right, you had your practice, you were operating, you were focusing on the life coach side of things, as you were saying there, you needed to start attracting clients. You needed to start growing that business. Let's assume you don't have the Rolodex that you currently have. What couple of things do you think you might focus on in the short term to really start getting the ball rolling?
That's a great question, by the way. In fact, I actually put together a checklist because time is limited, and there's many white papers out there in terms of that, and there's many blogs out there. But if I had to start today, let's say you said, well, today you're opening up the Lifelogixs. It's very, very important that I define two things. What I bring to the table, my unique value proposition. I need to understand the benefits, the value of what I'm bringing to potential clients. Two is I need to identify what my target audience is. If I'm going to be focusing on those individuals that are planning for retirement, if I'm looking at the recipients of one of the largest wealth transfers that we will ever experience, if I'm looking at professionals, small business, but most importantly, I need to identify what value I bring to the table. And secondly, what is the target segment I am developing my practice for? So my persona and the market, the practice that I'm going to be focusing on.
And so let's say you define that. Let's say for argument's sake, you decide you're going after medical professionals, with 10 plus years experience that live within 150 miles of your location, for example. Okay. And you've defined it down. You got your strategy. You're clear about your USP. From a tactical point of view, then, if you had to get your message out, is there any particular sort of strategies you would go to sort of straight away? Like, is there any obvious ones that you particularly like?
Well, because we live in a hybrid world, remember, I'm building two sides of my business. One is face-to-face when that happens. And also, secondly, I'm building a virtual business. So that automatically commands where I'm going to be staying front and center of my potential prospects. If I'm dealing with professionals, strangely enough, they would be looking at Facebook, which I would develop a virtual persona for. And I would also make certain that my LinkedIn profiles are up to date, that link to my website. So basically in day one, I'm thinking about my value proposition. I'm thinking about my virtual persona, what I'm going to concentrate on. And I need to accelerate the awareness of those clients, if it is the medical practice, through a multitude of social profiles. And I would choose Facebook as well as LinkedIn. Additionally, because I understand the capacities of LinkedIn Navigator, I would be able to search those medical practitioners in my demographic that I would want to have a conversation with in terms of building my practice.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's my first day.
No, absolutely. And what's funny is a lot of what you just said there resonates very much with how we approach our business. Obviously, we use LinkedIn extensively. We would talk a lot about drilling down to a particular segment, exactly the same approach. It doesn't really matter what part of the world you're in. The strategy works in a very similar way. There's something I've also seen you talking about recently is kind of the move away from more of being a face-to-face industry to being much more of a virtual online industry. Now, obviously, COVID-19 has kind of accelerated that, but it's something I've seen you talking a bit about over the last while anyway. What's your kind of thoughts on that, or how do you think that's gonna play out for the industry as a whole?
Well, we have intuitive platforms. So there's two sides of this business. We do have artificial intelligence that can feed us intelligence about people's behaviors and propensities. We do have automated CRMs that could keep us abreast of when to contact and reach out to our clients on a known frequency and known communication style. But we have two sides. We have our face-to-face potentially, and we have the virtual. So in terms of building both sides, I'm going to be very aware of me coming across like I'm doing today. I'm going to teach my potential prospects on how screen sharing works. I'm going to make certain that I'm coming across with good audio, good presence in an area that is devoid of noise. I'm going to make certain that we have specific topics to talk about that are of importance. So I'm not just going to present front and center about what's happening in the markets, and obviously there's enough channels you can do it on, but I'm going to talk to them about life events that are going to be affecting them. And I'm going to be talking to them on not only a blog, which sometimes you can have people write for you or you can write yourself. I'm also going to be linking that blog, to my website, because that's my thought leadership piece. And I'm also going to be making certain that when I'm prospecting, because if they are very busy professionals, they're not going to want to meet in a typical 9-to-5 situation. So I'm going to manage my hours and my focus. It could be 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. But I will use this virtual reality as if I'm sitting across a table from you. And that's a skill that has to be developed if you're going to build your business, or as I say, future proofing your business in today's world.
No, I totally agree. And I think this year, in particular, has forced everybody to get good at this. Zoom, I think, was an unknown quantity over a year ago, whereas these days it's just common parlance, isn't it? Which is amazing. It's amazing how we can have such a shift in such a short period of time, but it's changed in the industry, and it's challenged the industry in some ways. Now, one thing I know you're also quite well known for, Keena, is your ability to kind of stay ahead of the curve, your ability to kind of see future trends, to adapt to new technologies coming in. Because let's be honest, that's tricky, particularly if you're in an industry for 30 years. It's hard, changing and on your feet and thinking on your feet is difficult. And most people are quite resistant to it, whereas you have seemed to not only embrace it, but you've seemed to kind of do it at the right time. That seems to have been a sort of a skill that you've managed to do throughout your career. Can you explain a little bit to our listeners, how they might do that, how they might, when you're faced with a challenge, if there's a new tech or if there's a new approach or the industry's changing, how do you sort of stay on your toes and really stay ahead of it?
There's a lot of technology out there. So of course, if your time is well served, which is with your clients and your prospects, and not doing the evaluation on what tech stack is new and improved, first you need to decide how you're going to be doing your business. So again, my business model is very, very important. So if I'm dealing with customers of high net worth, if that's the persona that I'm looking for and target, then I'm going to be looking for solutions in terms of tax loss harvesting, more sophisticated rebalancing, a CRM that stays top of mind because they're busy professionals. But decide, if I had to add something to my practice, what's the value of that? We deal with a lot of situations where integrations, we hundreds of integrations have been done in the last couple years because independents have said, I want that, I need that. Well, again, it seems like that, but if you're not utilizing that particular tech solution and it's not making sense in your core business, really decide on how you're going to skate through the screen. So what I mean by that, if client onboarding is very important to you in terms of day one, DocuSigns, e-delivery, vaulting in terms of information, decide how you want to deal with your customers first. And if you had to create it from day one, what are the processes that you require to grow your practice and also complement your value proposition, which means you don't have to know all the technology all the time. But you do need to know where your business is going, how you're going to grow your assets under management, even to the point, because fee structures have changed so much. You're going to want to have very simple, transparent, frictionless collection of fees and reporting. So reporting and fee collection is very, very important as part and parcel of the technology. But I see the typical advisor maybe use 4 out of the 20 different technologies that are on their dashboard. So I don't think that they need to be technologically aware of every new nuance that comes in. But I will tell you, because of this virtual world that we do need to be prepared for, having the ability within your everyday customer onboarding within the platforms that you are using for a seamless ability for you to live within your platform. So a lot of the advisors right now are very comfortable embedding videos into their emails, their monthly communications. They're very, very comfortable in living and being live as they're doing their customer review. So having that capability in your frequent communications, in your daily practice, in your business, that I think is critical. But understanding how all the tech stacks work, I don't think that is the bailiwick of an independent advisor.
No, I totally agree. It's funny. I kind of smile to myself when we talk to a lot of advisors ourselves, and one of the conversations I have with them is, we're going to share some content. Do you want to do it by writing an article, or would you like to do it through video? And honestly, 90% of the time, the answer is, let's just go with article because that's safer, and I don't have to then put my face on camera. I don't need to worry about compliance telling me what I should and shouldn't say, and that type of thing. So I see almost a fear, of people getting across the line on the video side of things. Now, the people who do get across the line video get fantastic results. We've seen practices scale very, very quickly just because of how video allows them to position themselves. But I think it's the mental leap sometimes that is the challenge with it. That's what we see. Back to sort of growing and scaling practices. I really liked what you said there earlier about sort of growing your practice. If someone's already relatively well established and they've done the initial hard yards, but now they're thinking, okay, well, how do I actually scale this into a larger business? I've got a number of advisors. I'd like to have 10 to 12 advisors. I'd like to go into multiple locations. I'd like to expand into different niches and areas. Is there any sort of tips or ideas you might have for that type of advisor as they're looking to really properly start to scale their business?
Well, communications is key. Keep in mind, you want something that is scalable and repeatable. So you already understand what your business model is. You already understand what you're bringing to the table. And to grow a business, you're going to have a different mindset. You're going to start looking at opportunities, not only with your existing client base, but the recipients of that wealth. So in order for you to communicate intergenerationally, you need to be adept at a multitude of ways of communicating. So for instance, there are institutions right now, and they're very aware of the wealth transfer. So creating programs of financial wellness. We've all heard about this. And it's not a matter of just understanding what the word means, but to also promote that wellness. And what do I really fine tune about that? Budgeting is a very, very difficult thing to understand for those that are inheriting the wealth. There are many free solutions out there in terms of what you spend, but also I've encountered solutions that are intuitive, that actually are able to report back to their financial wellness and change spending habits that can find dollars to fund retirement goals or a vacation home or whatever, or a second home for that matter. So So you're asking me, how do you add additional AUMs? Well, first of all, you have to change your mindset. And then you have to think about what behaviors are you looking for? We all understand financial planning, but that's more of a rear view perspective in terms of where they are in time. If I'm looking to locate outside dollars, new monies, I need to offer something that's a little bit more intelligent to find those dollars that could fund new dreams and goals. So when I talk about financial wellness, I'm not just talking about, publishing material on these events. I'm actually looking for software that's identifying behaviors that can actually signal alerts intelligently, that can demonstrate where I should be moving those dollars into fund my goals or dreams. So now I'm more of a life coach. We started this conversation at the beginning, and now I already have a business, but now I want to increase my business. So I have to now, I'm not going to just doing it with just financial planning, but the level of savings in America, the last report that I looked at, 53% of Americans do not have savings. So I have to literally look at their spending habits to locate dollars to move into a savings program. for whatever goal it is. It's also unfortunate that many Americans, even if they're high net worth earners, and we certainly know a lot of W-2s, are still living paycheck to paycheck. Well, strangely enough, I do want to attract those, but I'm going to attract them by me focusing on a financial wellness. I'm looking to change behaviors to attract a new set of clients, and I'm going to use technology to attract that growth of AUMs and new clients.
Excellent. Listen, I love how succinct you are about that, and I love how clear you are about that, and I think that's the clarity of 30 years of experience coming through, you know, so which is nice. I'm conscious of our time today, so maybe just one last question is what's next for Keena? What's next for Lifelogixs? What are you focusing on now going forward?
Because we're involved in the focus right now is companies that are looking to enter the North American market. There are many very sophisticated technology firms out there, and they're brilliant at what they do. But we're focusing on those firms that are not headquartered here in North America, and looking to position them and also address their entries, their barriers to entry in terms of introducing them to our existing network, which is over 30 years old, doing all the processes, the protocols, the due diligence packages, the risk. So we're going to be focusing on that. And also, as we talked about, the independent advisors, there's a lot of acquisitions going on. There's a lot of movement going on in the RA market.
Very much.
And there are dollars available to do that. But when I talked to an advisor, a very, very capable independent the other day, and one of the first things he said to me is, well, I'm limiting my practice to 70 clients. This is what I'm going to be focusing on. This is how I'm going to communicate. So I think building, and this is a very important focus since we do have RA clients, is showing them ways to grow their business above and beyond their certified financial planners or their juris degree. Some of them are attorneys, on how to grow their practice in a mixed bag, in a virtual and hybrid world. So that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Excellent. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Okay, I'm always on LinkedIn, so you can just search me on LinkedIn and people like that, and I'll accept the invite. I'm always on Twitter. Again, I'm very visible on that. I do have a website, www.lifelogixs.com, so they can just send me a chat message through that, and I'll pick it up and respond. I do like phone calls, the old way of doing business, so they can call me here in the, they can call me here in the States, 561-985-6238, and I do pick up my phone. Excellent. I don't use bots in my business.
We'll put links to your website and details in below the video here as well. Listen, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it today, and for all your insights, and best of luck with the growth of your business as well. Okay.
Be safe, be happy, and have a wonderful and prosperous new year. Thank you, Paul, for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Indeed.